We're going to give an awkward little, like 30 seconds to a minute of just staring blankly at each other as folks trickle in. For whatever reason, the chat has the setting automatically for folks that it defaults to hosts and panelists. So if folks want to engage with one another and not just us, I would recommend you change your chat settings from to host and panelists to everyone, and then you can say hi.
You might need to say that again. What should I do?
On the chat setting where it says to, and then it has a bar with a pull down, it has it set, I believe, for everyone to only communicate to the hosts and panelists as if it's private message. But if you want
I see.
For everyone.
I see.
Oh, everyone, right. I've just done that, yeah. Ha.
And then you can say where you're sitting in from this evening, or whatever alternate name you'd like to go by this evening, or what have you. All right, I think I shall begin, and then we'll let folks wander on in as they may. So good evening, and welcome to tonight's live online author event with Greenlight Bookstore. I'm Kay from Greenlight, and we are thrilled to host tonight's event with Tom Crewe, presenting his new book, The New Life. He will be talking with Colm Tóibín, so you're in for an excellent time. Before we start, I just want to say a huge thanks to Tom, Colm, and the team at Scribner for making this happen, and to all of you for showing up. We're grateful for your support and for the chance to make space for conversation and connection. Before I hand things over, just a couple of quick housekeeping things. In our Zoom webinar tonight, you can see and hear the speakers, but they can't see or hear you. They can see that you're here though, and there are a couple of different ways you can interact with the authors and with each other throughout tonight's event, which we highly encourage. The first is the chat, which you can find by clicking on the icon that looks like one speech balloon. You're welcome to post your comments and thoughts in the chat. It's a wonderful way to show your appreciation for the authors and with fellow attendees. If you have a specific question you'd like to have answered by the author or either panelist for that matter, please post that question in the Q&A module. You can find it by clicking on the icon that looks like two speech balloons. We'll be pulling questions only from the Q&A to be answered in the later part of the program. And importantly, tonight's featured book, The New Life, is available for sale from Greenlight Bookstore. As thanks for attending tonight's virtual event, we are offering 10% off the featured book. Enter coupon code GreenlightEvents10 into the coupon discount section at checkout online for 10% off. And that is also featured in the chat. I'll keep including the link in there as well. Our interviewer tonight is Colm Tóibín. I'm not Irish, so I'm not going to say it with two syllables, or at least as I try to, it probably won't sound like two syllables. Tóibín is the author of 10 novels, as well as 2 short story collections and several books of criticism. He is the Irene and Sidney B. Silverman Professor of the Humanities at Columbia University, and has been named as the laureate for Irish fiction for 2022 to 2024 by the Arts Council of Ireland. 3 times shortlisted for the Booker Prize, Tóibín lives in Dublin and New York, and we're hosting him next week too. He will be speaking with our featured author, Tom Crewe. Crewe was born in Middlesbrough in 1989. He has a PhD in 19th century British history from the University of Cambridge. Since 2015, he has been an editor at the London Review of Books, to which he has contributed more than 30 essays on politics, art, history, and fiction. The New Life is his first novel. In Tom's debut novel, The New Life, 2 men collaborate on a book in defense of homosexuality, then a crime. risking their old lives in the process. Colm himself said of Tom's debut, the new life is filled with nuance and tenderness, steeped in the atmosphere of late 19th century London, a world on the brink of social and sexual change. Tom Crewe's brilliant novel dramatizes the relationship between the visionary and the brave, charting the lives of men and women who inspired not only political progress, but an entire new way of living and loving. With that, I'm going to start handing it over to our featured guests. Tom will give us a reading from the book, and then he'll be talking with Colm and with all of you. So please take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you for everyone for joining. I'm going to read from about halfway through the book. There's a kind of hinge moment in the book where my characters have produced their book about homosexuality, where they argue it should not be a crime, that it's normal and natural, and they are kind of pushing forward with their book when Oscar Wilde is arrested and put on trial for homosexual offences. So this chapter sort of begins kind of in the immediate wake of that, with my character John, who is a gay man, kind of reflecting on the experience of the Wilde trial. And the chapter is sort of studied with questions that were posed to Wilde during his trials. So there are kind of these recurring questions, and these were all kind of thrown at Wilde during his trials. So I will begin. These were John's days of dread, his months, March to May, when everything secret, hidden, whispered, was shouted, pasted, printed, when what was unmentionable was warmed in every maudlin moral mouth, when what was nameless was become nothing but names. Douglas, Queensberry, Collins, Clark, Carson, Lockwood, Gill, Kettner's, Albemarle, Florence, Savoy, Parker, Granger, Maver, Wood, Atkins, Scarf, Shelley, Tankard, Conway, Ponce, Bugger, Sodomite, Taylor, the procurer, Wilde, the seducer. When everything that had been dignified, rationalized, was made gross and tawdry, was torn down and trawled through the gutter. When the days had the steepness, the terrifying altitude of a nightmare. When every prejudice uncoiled and rose from its pit, showing the inside of its ugly throat. Leaders, letters, speeches, handbills, placards, pictures, chalkings on walls, crowds on corners, jeerers, jurors. When John felt himself exposed, sprawled on the slimed wreck of his privacy at the world's mercy. Except it was not his privacy. You dined with him, gave him an excellent dinner. Did you give him plenty of wine at dinner? Did you give him whiskey and sodas? After dinner, did you give him a sovereign? When he could not sleep, when he wanted to run and run, when he took every newspaper down to the lowest, scoured them, studied variations, speculated on gaps, absences, filled them, cursed the questioners, cursed the answerer. Was he a literary character? Was he intellectual? Was he an educated man? How old was he? Was his conversation literary? He had never met, never seen Oscar Wilde, never talked with him almost, but for the fact that he had seen one of his plays. Not one of the plays running at the time of the first trial that were considered so amusing, that were at first carried on with Wilde's name taken off the bills until they too were removed from sight. An earlier play. You were alone, you two. The approach to your room was through his. What was there in common between this young man and yourself? What attraction had he for you? He had read some of Wilde's tales, some of the essays. He had wondered. Of course, that was the intention. the old intention, to raise a doubt, to make a signal, to make you wonder. Did you kiss him? Did you put your hands inside his trousers and then bring him into your room, sleep in the same bed with him all night? He looked at Wilde's photograph, large, elegant, fat and sleek and fine, clean, crisp, a wave in his hair. He read the descriptions of his appearance: silk hats, fur coats, coach and four, waved cigarettes, his tie a bright spill of colour on his shirt, a flower burst in his buttonhole. Read how he was crushed at the entrance to the court, how after his arrest prison told on him, how he creased, went shabby, became thinner, older, how his hair lost its curl, how his face went white in the dock, washed red. John wondered whether the thought had occurred to him too, that it was merely his portrait that was degrading in public, that somewhere else Oscar Wilde was still free and fat and fine, clean and crisp. Thank you.
Tom, thank you very much. That was very beautifully done. I have two things to ask you about that. The first one is, could you just tell us, first of all, I mean, if you're setting a novel in a sort of gay London, or London in which there are certain homosexual people, and it's 1894, the problem is it's about to become 1895. And you have, first of all, it's a gift to you because this is the crucial year. If you could just explain this to us. But secondly, it's a problem for you because how are you going to handle technically the arrival of the Wilde trial? Is it not going to dominate your book for you? So I want to ask you the first question first, which is, could you just tell us like what 1894, 1895 meant in London?
Yes, so the kind of main thing I saw when I saw a novel in this material was this contrast, this hinge moment. What I was interested in was 1894, there's a moment of optimism, excitement, intellectual ferment. There are men in London, in Britain, who are thinking about homosexuality in a new way, not a sin, not a crime, not a medical issue, but a kind of benign human quirk that someone could be born with, like colorblindness. And people are making this argument. More and more people are making this argument. People are seeing in the poetry of Walt Whitman, for example, a kind of cultural endorsement for homosexuality, a vision of what homosexuality might be in the present. That, you know, you have over here the Greeks in ancient times, which seem to offer a model for homosexuality's legitimate presence in society. And now you have Whitman saying it's to do with democracy, it's comradeship, it's cross-class, it's a vision of a healthy, human, naturalistic, natural future. So all of those things are happening. There's a moment of excitement and optimism. And my characters in that moment are writing this book about homosexuality, saying, you know, it's normal, natural. Why is it a crime? Why are you putting people in prison and making them suffer for this? And then suddenly in 1895, Oscar Wilde, largely his own fault, gets himself into court. His sort of gay life is revealed, and people are dug out and made to give evidence. And there is a kind of vast wave of homophobia kind of washes over Britain. You know, people recoil from him. He's disgusting. It's a sign of a degenerate culture. His plays are taken off. He's in disgrace. He's put into prison. He's spat at on the train station platform. It's horrible, and it sets back the cause. So what I wanted to do was dramatize exactly that, this move from optimism to tragedy, and see how my characters would respond to that shift. So the technical problem was how you do that. And I think the main thing I thought at the time was some people, I mean, not everyone's an expert, not everyone's going to have that date, or, know the date in their head. So I thought some people are going to know that 1895 is coming. Some people are going to see Wilde coming. So what I wanted it to be was a kind of drumbeat in the background, that if you know that it's coming, people are going to sense that something's coming. And if you don't, then I like the idea that it came as a surprise, as it comes as a surprise to the characters, that it's a bolt from the blue. So the way I resolved the technical problem was almost to just keep Wilde completely off stage. So I think he's mentioned once. It seemed too much to not mention him at all, but he is mentioned once, and then he appears in the main frame.
If there's anyone out there who's thinking of writing an historical novel or writing a PhD on the evolution of this sort of history-based character in the novel, your novel is of extreme interest because it does something new, which is that the two characters are John Addington and Henry Ellis, which, the astute reader of late 19th century sexual politics will know, oh God, this is John Addington Symonds, this is Havelock Ellis. Oh, I know who these two guys are. And then, of course, if you did some Googling, you'd find out, no, they couldn't. It's not possible. One of them is actually dead. So in other words, instead of sticking to the facts as the sort of scaffolding in which you can then create the illusion for the reader that the reader's in the room with these men, you've actually also created an illusion around the scaffolding. In other words, that you have decided as an ex-historian, like a spoiled priest, you've decided that you're going to explode the whole idea of verisimilitude, sticking to the facts. Historian writes novel. And you're going to say, no, novelist writes novel. And so can you just take us through what you've done with the facts, with the actual truth? Tom, that's the truth.
Yes, and this is it's interesting because most reviewers have picked up on this, but some reviewers don't seem to quite realize how much I have departed from the facts. So my characters, John and Henry, are based on Symonds and Ellis, as you say, and my novel begins in 1894. And these two historical figures did write this book about homosexuality. But in 1894, one of them was dead. Symonds was dead. But right at the beginning of the process, I knew that this was just very inconvenient for the story I wanted to tell, precisely because of what I said in my last answer, which is that I was so interested in that pivot, that moment of contrast. And so my Symonds character, my John character, really embodies that moment of optimism and excitement. And it's got a personal edge. It's not purely intellectual because he is a gay man. As Symonds was, he's a gay man whose intellectual awakening goes hand in hand with a physical awakening in my novel. So at the same moment as he is becoming bolder and braver in his thinking and putting this book together, he's also becoming bigger and braver and bolder in his life, in his sexual and personal life. And he has met a young man called Frank and brought him into the center of his life and his family, and he's in love for the first time. And so all of those things added up to a kind of picture in my mind where this Symonds figure, this gay man, had to be alive for the Wilde trial. I had to put that kind of figure up against that drama, had to see how he would respond to Wilde, the figure of Wilde, the fact that Wilde actually does not very well represent that moment of optimism and excitement because he denies being gay and he disguises that in his fiction. He was not involved in those campaigns. So I needed to have that contrast. So it's a kind of counterfactual. It's what if a figure like Symonds, who was becoming more brave, more forthright, more candid, who was pushing at the limits of acceptability, what if that man had not died in 1893? And what if he had lived into that moment? What would he have done? Would he have done something different than other figures? Would he have been braver? Would he have been bolder? And in order to explore those questions, I had to just put the facts over here. And I never had any compunction about it because they were not those men exactly. You know, I slightly altered the names. I create new figures, the various love interests in the book, because I always started actually with that intellectual or human interest. What would happen?
I don't think, I don't think it's the slightest problem.
No.
That, but I mean for the reader, you just don't get to think about it because you get taken up with the problems that are arising in the novel, which you're dramatizing. Now, one of the big problems that you're dramatizing in this book, which an historian might not be interested in, which is, what was his marriage like? I mean, John Addington is married. His wife is a very interesting woman. I mean, you know, they have money. They have 3 daughters, and suddenly she's in, first of all, in a what we might call a mariage blanc. In other words, that the sexual thing doesn't work in the marriage. But it's not merely that. It is that for her, the idea of her husband wanting to go public about something that's so shameful, that's going to destroy the lives of their daughters. And you actually managed to allow the reader to see things from her side. So you do want him to stop at certain moments. Yes, he's brave. Yes, it's important. But actually within this house, now if you could just tell us, first of all, let's just go back a bit. There are these wonderful parks in London. I mean, it's a great London book, really. And tell us about the Serpentine.
Well, the Serpentine is an artificial, it's called a river, but it's not really. It's a kind of lake. It's a big artificial body of water in Hyde Park. And people still swim in it. It's still a kind of swimming.
Are they still naked in there?
I don't, and sadly not. Sadly,
I was wondering about that.
I know, it's a shame.
But in your book, this is where he meets Frank, who is
yes.
a person of a different class, different education, who's very brave, who comes right up to him and says, you know, this is my address.
So it was and I actually remember when I was doing my PhD, I was looking at a lot of Victorian newspapers, and I remember coming across, you know, very innocent pictures of it in the newspapers of all these naked men on the banks and swimming on a morning. And it was a kind of famous spot for gay men. They would go and watch the swimmers. And John goes there early in the book, and it's his spot. He goes and watches, and it's basically the only expression of his sexuality at that point. And then he is sort of ambushed by Frank, who's a working class man who sees him watching, and strikes up conversation and kind of forces himself on John. But it's the beginning of their kind of relationship, their affair, and it initiates that set of circumstances which bring Frank into the home, and therefore into Catherine's life, John's wife.
Yes, the scenes are really dramatic, where Catherine has to face the fact that her husband has brought this man home. And this man is going to be a permanent fixture in the house. He's going to be called his secretary. But he's of a different class, which matters so much in the English novel itself, but also in English life. That how are they all going to manage this? But what you've done is you've managed to let us see this from Catherine's perspective. So you know, it isn't just a novel about these brave gay men trying to change things. It's not about the sort of collateral damage.
Yes. Well, I want people to feel that all the way through, because it would be so easy to write a novel in a way which has you sympathizing with John all the way through and feeling sad and mournful and you know, a kind of feel good weepy. But really, I want the reader to feel that discomfort, to actually kind of wish John would shut up, go back in the closet, just bugger off somewhere else. Because if we didn't feel that, if we didn't feel, first of all, there's just a human thing. If you're a novelist, you should be looking at this woman and thinking, what's she feeling, what's she thinking. So that should always be there anyway. I was curious about her. I wanted to know how she thought, and once you start thinking about it, you know, it's easy to think, well, she must be horrified and pissed off, and you know, it's horrible for her. And of course, if I didn't explore that, if she didn't get to speak her mind, if she, you know, in our parlance, she's a homophobe, she's even though she sympathizes, she does understand. But if we didn't see that anger, that rage, that bitterness, we wouldn't understand the society. We wouldn't understand the cost of a structural, you know, deeply cultural homophobia in a society, because it forced this marriage to exist in the first place, and it's made this marriage a misery for two people. And the problem is, John knows that. He wants to change the society, as he says, partly because he understands that it has hurt his wife, and it shouldn't be the case that a woman's put in that situation. But in order to change society, he has to make his wife more miserable, cast more shame on her. So it's a kind of inexorable vice, which itself makes the larger point about how horrible and difficult this moment in history is.
American readers may not be so alert to the fear we all live in the what used to be called the British Isles, in our archipelago, about a thing called the Bad Sex Award, which is given every year. The idea, it's only in England could these things happen. And yes. Writers are meant to live in fear of it because it's a reward for the worst description of sex. But I think there should be an award given for the best sex, the best writing, because it's really hard to write about sex. Mm-hmm. And there are marvelous sex scenes in this book. I mean, the scenes where John and Frank have managed to get into, you know, he moves down the corridor from his own bedroom, as it were, leaving Catherine lying there, and finds Frank. And him and Frank, it's, I think, vitally important for you to establish what it is they do, because of course what it is they do is going to make such a difference to their lives. It's not just sex, it's illegal, it's not just exciting, it's life-changing, and therefore it has to be described in detail. Can you give, if there is, for example, if there are young writers perhaps here, could you give advice to them as to how you write about sex with, in my view, I found the sex scenes not only convincing, but technically really well done.
Oh, that's very kind. Well, I'm glad, and it is difficult. I remember saying to a friend once, you know, we were going to meet for lunch, and I said, you know, actually, can we wait? Can I put you off for 2 hours? I'm absolutely wrestling with this sex scene. It's an absolute nightmare to get down, so to speak, because it is difficult. Sometimes it's not work. It doesn't work, and I don't know how self-conscious I was doing it, apart from feeling that it was a technical challenge, but maybe no more of a technical challenge than other parts of the book, and maybe that's the way to think of it, not to put it in a box over here, but to think of it as presenting writerly challenges in the same way as a different kind of scene would. It's about pacing, it's about, you know, the weight of detail, it's about finding the precise word and image, it's about tone, it's about all those things that you want to control and manage all the way through your book, and you need to bring those same skills to bear on a sex scene. Maybe you need to be particularly aware of, you know, not getting too flowery, keeping it fairly factual and precise, I think. Maybe, I don't know, is that an answer to the question?
Yes, that's good. That's good. That's enough for the moment on that subject. We need to move on to the subject of Henry Ellis, because this is a novel really about two different sorts of late 19th century reformers on the small matter of sexual inversion, of homosexuality. And could you describe then the Henry Ellis again? There's another woman, which is that he really is much more forward-looking in his own life. So when he meets a young woman called Edith, she too wants a sort of freedom in marriage. So I think what they're initially talking about is the idea that they would be together, but the relationship would be open, that it would be honest. But of course, he has much more to be honest about than she does, until she has much more to be honest about than he does.
Yeah.
And so this is a very different, much more modern household that Henry Ellis establishes.
Yes. So he, yes, I mean, they are, Henry and Edith, if John is about to turn 50 at the beginning of the novel, Henry and Edith are in their early 30s. They're part of a group called the Society of the New Life, which is a very forward-thinking group. It's about cultivating the individual personality, changing society by changing yourself, changing the individual, by creating better kinds of selfless, non-materialistic people who, socialism is achieved by, creating an individualist society, a society that allows everyone to express their individuality. So that's what they are doing at the beginning of the book, what they see themselves as doing when they want to break down, in a way, gender roles. They want to create a marriage which is not premised on a very clear gender division, that's not about kind of patriarchal ideas of marriage. It's a partnership. It's not, very importantly for them, but confusingly, they don't think it has to be a sexual partnership. In fact, they believe that it would be very good to take sex out of marriage, to make marriage a kind of intellectual choice, where you choose the person who fulfills you and your needs, rather than just choosing someone you fancy the pants off and just need to get into bed with. So that's what they see themselves as doing. The problem is that they don't quite dare own up to various facts, which is that they don't quite decide whether they actually do want to have sex or not. Henry doesn't admit to his kind of sexual predilection, which maybe we can talk about. And Edith doesn't quite own up to how much she's attracted to other women. So they start a very idealistic marriage, and part of the novel is kind of testing their ideals against reality.
This is a novel, I suppose, of competing textures, of varying textures, where, for example, they are doing research for this book, which of course proves a gift to you, because they have to then it's one of the brilliant sequences in the book where they have to do interviews. And they interview a man called Jack. And of course, later on for this Jack, the idea that, hold on, I don't want could I be identified? I don't, it's changed 1894 to 1895. Actually, hold on a minute. Do you have any notes that if the place was raided, could they find my name? But what's more interesting in a way is the interview itself. It just gives you the opportunity to actually put a little life, someone's little life into your book, someone's desires, where he's not a major character, he's not a major player, he's a piece of research. But the piece of research allows you to play with that tonal thing of as a subject of an interview in a novel suddenly gets to have his say using interview sound. Yes,
that was... I'm glad people really like that scene, and I'm glad because it was important. It was important to have, as you say, to have another life on show. We know about John. John's kind of, it's quite an operatic story by the end. It's about personal drive and personal commitment in the face of various obstacles in family, and actually it was so important just to shine that light on just a quieter gay life being led out of the margins of the story, partly because it did something that was important to me throughout the novel, which is to try and show that there were lots of different kinds of gay lives being led, and that most gay men in Britain didn't get in trouble with the law, weren't arrested, and had relationships, found ways of being in the world and accepting themselves in one way or another. So Jack's story allows that to come, yes, brings that different texture, that different sort of experience in, and allows more of a, yes, as you say, those small details. You know, when did he first know? When did he? And he talks about having crushes on boys at school, and you feel his relief. And, you know, he's asked to be interviewed in person because he wants to talk publicly. He wants to let his friend, Henry, know this stuff. And I think that's very poignant. I think you feel that this is a confession he wants to make. And almost the more prosaic and the more factual, the more interview-like it is, the better, because it probes into those corners of his life that have been unsuspected, undiagnosed by his friend.
I mean, I think there's a theory or a faction out there that says that the novelist and the historian cannot be friends, and that you have to sort of shed all your historians, all your footnoting nonsense, you know, when you become a novelist. But I don't think that's true, and I think it's a really good example in this book of. You know, where the historian is constantly trying, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is constantly trying to find a way of complicating the narrative. Is there another way of looking at this story? Is the narrative I'm getting, is there not a however here? There was another thing happening underneath that was moving towards progress, that the Wilde thing was not an example, but was actually an aberration. And that if we watch carefully, we can see that. And I think we see that in the presence of a real character who marches into the book in a very confident way, who's Edward Carpenter. So I just want to, if you just give us a picture of another fellow who is operating as a homosexual in England in these years, who seems to have just been left alone. People just left Edward Carpenter, like he just could do whatever he wanted.
He's a very interesting character, and in fact, Colm has written a very good piece about him for the LRB years ago, which was of great use to me.
I'm glad I've got some purpose. This is good.
He's as you say, he's important to have in the book again because he offers another model of a gay life, a very different kind, a much more public kind. I mean, Carpenter was a kind of leading, very well-known socialist, a poet, someone who had views on all sorts of things, the sort of countercultural
socialism.
Sandals. He liked making sandals. He thought people should have their toes out and free. He, you know, is encouraging nudity, you know, nude sunbathing, vegetarianism. He was a kind of anti-colonialist, anti-imperialist. So he had a kind of wide range of interests and kind of was public facing on all of these things. But he was also a gay man who lived with his partner, George Merrill, in a house in Sheffield.
They lived together. Say that George Merrill famously is the man who put his hand on E.M. Forster's backside, isn't he?
Yes, he is. So Forster later, in the 1910s, I guess, visited Carpenter and Merrill at their house, and he says Merrill, Forster says, as I believe he did often, patted me on the behind and sent a shiver kind of from the small of my back into my ideas, and gave the idea for Morris, which of course is itself an exploration of a kind of cross-class sexual relationship, of which Carpenter and Merrill were an example. So they lived there. They lived together for, I think, nearly 40 years. Meanwhile, Carpenter, who was a former priest, was friends with the priest in the village. You know, there were lots of people who knew they were there and just didn't ask questions or didn't look too closely. And when Carpenter died, you know, the Prime Minister paid tribute to him in 1929. You know, he knew what was really going on. So he had this incredible kind of invisible, visible thing happening.
He's one of the lovely figures to appear in the book. a gift you have, or that you give yourself in the book is, I think in any novel, it's a great idea that the two main characters don't get to meet until, I think, page 256. In other words, that they write, so you can have them writing to each other. Could you talk to us about making that epistolary thing in the book important or dramatic, or that it could hold enough, I suppose, weight that you feel they are in some sort of relationship, so their meeting later will be very dramatic?
Yes. It's one of those things when you start writing a novel, you start with one set of intentions. And I think at the time when I first started it, I knew that in real life, I think I was still making some of my decisions about fact and fiction. And I knew that in real life, Symonds and Ellis, the basis for my John and Henry, never met at all. So I was thinking about that and thinking, how useful is that? And I started to think, well, I like the idea that they could be, because not only did they never meet, but they never explained to each other why they were interested in the issue of homosexuality. So they wrote this book together, and Symonds never said explicitly, I'm a gay man, put his own case study into the book anonymously without saying it was him. Ellis never said, oh, my wife's a lesbian. His wife's case went into the book anonymously. So that would seem to me, that was one of the kind of little harmonies or mirrorings which got my attention right at the beginning of the process. So that got me thinking, well, what do we gain from these figures not meeting? And one of those things is kind of mismatched perceptions, or the sense of people arriving at the same topic from different directions. And as I went on, that became more significant or more useful, because I knew that I wanted my characters to meet later on. But actually, the more you build up those lives, those entanglements, you should be able to see right from the beginning that, the letters follow individual chapters. So you see John doing something. In fact, a good example would be you see John have his first kiss with Frank, pressed up in an alleyway. And immediately after that chapter, he writes his first letter to Ellis saying, oh, I've read your piece about Whitman. How interesting. What do you think about, male love? So you can see that letter, that impulse, without being spelled out, you can see that it's come out of that sexual awakening, that moment of sexual arrival. So, and at the same time, on the other side, you're always seeing where Ellis's letters are coming from, and they're coming from a different place too. And you see how each man is thinking about the other. So that creates a kind of momentum. It creates a kind of structural effect in the novel where you have kind of distorted images of each character, which means that when they do meet, the reader already understands, or hopefully already understands, that they are not coming from the same place. They may be writing a book together, they may be interested in the same things, but actually they're coming from different kinds of intellectual traditions, and also they have different kind of personal motivations for being engaged in this project. And that becomes very relevant as the book develops, because the fault lines start to show between what each man thinks he's doing.
I mean, I think that's one of the dramas between these two figures who, as you say, almost misunderstand each other, but are kept together, and the business of how are they going to deal with each other eventually. So let's say that's one drama that's going on. The other drama we've mentioned is the drama of Oscar Wilde, that great rupture in the piece that was the spring of 1895 that really changed everything. But I think a further drama in the book, which I think you play very well, is the drama of will they or will they not publish this book called Sexual Inversion that they've been working on. Obviously, writing it is one thing. And the question, of course, is in publishing it, what's going to happen to Catherine? What's going to happen to his wife, his daughters, when it isn't just merely that this scandal is in the domestic space, the servants know about it, but suddenly the whole world, the husbands of the daughters, everyone's going to be in on this thing now, this great scandal. Will they or will they not publish it? Should they or should they not publish it? And the reader is in on this too, as to will they, what's going to happen with this? There's a sort of an excitement, a sort of momentum built up, that there is something we don't know. Anyway, Sexual inversion.
Yes, it becomes the kind of dominating issue immediately after the Wilde trial. Do they go ahead with the book? And in a way, it's that moment where the first half of the book is really about those intimate relationships, the development of the intimate relationships, and seeing the possibilities for those gay lives, or that kind of bold thinking about marriage that the Ellises are engaged in. And then suddenly in that second half, as you say, the world crowds in, all these things, there's a harsh light thrown on them and they have to decide what to do. And I think for John especially, that becomes about, is he willing to expose his family? Is he willing to make things worse? Is he willing to risk more danger? Is he willing to risk himself and his relationship to push that book through? Is it worth it? Even if he did those things, some of the other characters are asking, even if you did those things, what will you achieve? And it becomes a kind of, I hope there's a kind of big set of ethical dilemmas about progress. How do we make progress? Do we make it through individual sacrifice, individual action, individual example? Or do we wait? Do we bide our time? Do we choose the right moment? Or does the right moment not exist? Do we create the moment? So these kind of big questions, I think, are generated at the end.
Yes, I mean, I think what you're creating in the figure of John is someone who will pursue this to the end, who has almost no compunction, who doesn't stop, who doesn't question himself. And the reader watches him sometimes with helplessly thinking, this cannot end well. And of course, the small matter is who's going to print it? And the small matter then is, who's going to read it? How is this book going to be distributed? Who's going to have it? So the book is going to have consequences.
Yes, exactly. And it ends up... Another thing I wanted to avoid was, I think all the way through, I wanted to avoid kind of some classic tropes. I didn't want John himself to end up in the, I don't think it's a spoiler. I didn't want John to end up in the dock. I didn't want it. It would be the wrong thing. I wanted to open up in a way, not narrow down. And so in the end, what happens with the book is that the book gets caught up in a kind of peripheral drama. It's a kind of muddy, accidental kind of human problem where the book gets caught up in a police action, which is sort of to do with the book, but really actually more to do with the police being worried about anarchists and anarchism, because the book has been sold by a kind of raffish radical figure in a kind of dirty house in Holborn, Mr. Higgs, who I think again allows the book to kind of open up another avenue into the society, into London, into what else was happening at that time.
I mean, I was talking earlier about textures, about that very first piece you read, that it's actually very unlike everything else in the book. It's just the big public moment has to be dealt with in a different way than the usual narrative. We were talking about in the usual narrative then has its own textures, which includes, for example, it includes letters, but it also includes two quite important speeches in public, which of course is one of the great things. If you could get that going in a book, you have to have a sort of, you have to have built the private thing well enough so that when the figure speaks in public, you are watching again with, please don't let her, he mustn't say. So it's first Edith speaking. And again, it's a question of she's not being fully honest, but she's being very progressive. She's doing her best. How much is she going to say? And then we come to I think, a very, very dramatic scene in the book. And I think a very powerful one where John simply goes too far, where he's in the wrong group to say what he's going to say. He misreads the group. So his bravery comes to nothing because of his lack of tact. And so we're watching that idea. In other words, we're watching the character as though the character has moved out of our control, and we're hoping to pull them back. So can you take us through first the Edith speech and then the John speech?
Yes. So Edith, and almost right at the beginning of the novel, Edith is talking about the lecture she's going to give about kind of modern marriage, relationship between the sexes, and she, in the end, we see her deliver one of her lectures, where she talks about the need for women to assert themselves and be better, more honest people, and that this will, create better men, and women are letting themselves down. And of course, we know that she is not quite living up to those ideals herself, that her marriage with Henry is by some extent a failure, that she has fallen in love with someone else, that their marriage is kind of riven with tension because of that fact, that she herself is struggling to assert herself, her true self as a woman, failing to live truly, and is actually kind of afraid of living as truly as she might. So in a way, it's actually a mirroring of the two speeches. Edith is speaking publicly, but actually hiding quite a lot, disguising herself in public, whereas John goes the other way and is telling too much, telling everything. And that goes back to the John thing, goes back to what I was saying earlier, because that thing about wanting the reader to kind of find themselves turning against their natural sympathies or instincts, because the speech is a great speech. It's a wonderful speech about how it is to be a gay man in Victorian Britain, and it's an example of when I did this kind of magpie thing and I took whole sentences and bits from a letter that Symonds wrote to a German sexologist in the 1880s. And the letter is very dramatic, and actually it lent itself to a speech. So I sort of put this out there in words, and you have that moment where the reader really wants John to shut up because it's not appropriate, it's not the right time.
It's like being at a wedding or a funeral or a book launch or something where please sit down. Could the speaker just sit down? The joke isn't good. It's like you go into most terrible states of, please, John, please don't continue. And you're right. What he's saying is true. It's just in the wrong moment or the wrong crowd. And that's very well done. It's a really tense moment created.
It's actually, and I should say, it's done really beautifully in the audiobook, which is read by an actor called Freddie Fox, and he does it with such incredible gusto. He really does it wonderfully. So you kind of get that sense of it as a narration that breaks down into a kind of tear-choked voice. And it was really good for me because I spent, when I did my PhD, I was reading speeches a lot, politicians' speeches mainly. So I kind of had the rhetoric of a Victorian kind of after dinner platform speech in my mind. So he starts very kind of ornately, my gentleman on the right, and if you wouldn't mind me saying a few words, and then it's part of the drama, I hope, is that the fact that the speech collapses into the personal. It becomes a kind of rant by the end, and we the readers want him to shut up.
Tom, I have a question. There's a question here. There's a question for both. Did at any point during the writing of your novels find yourself doubting your ability to write the novel you had in your head, or fear that it wouldn't be received in the way you imagined? If yes to that, how best do you get through those periods? So could you answer that, please? I'd like to get out of answering that if I could, but so why don't I just throw it to you?
Yes, I mean, I think probably all writers have have that moment, or that moment several times, several hundred times a week. There were certainly moments when people don't really believe me when I say this, because people now think the book seems very relevant and to our moment, which is very nice. But I often thought, I'd be typing up these letters discussing, can gay men whistle? And
by the way, can we whistle?
I can't.
I actually can't whistle. I mean,
No,
I really
I can't.
But I've
can't do it at all.
that gay men can't run, and that's true. But if someone's running after me, I can run. You know what I mean? But the idea of just running, so gay men we can't whistle, we can't run. Anything else?
There was things about very wide hips, which again, I could do that. I could tick that box. And yes, there were incredible theories about how long your fingers were. Ideas. There were ideas that like the sexual sensations had somehow been misdirected to the rectum rather than.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. But anyway, to get back to the serious question.
Yes, what was I saying? Yes, so you have those moments.
I suppose the issue might have been for you. Did you worry at a certain point, is this too drama documentary? Am I moving away from the facts? Is this, this is steeped in the period and the complexities of the period. Will this be, is it too, am I trying too many things for a reader?
Yes.
And I just wonder, were any of those things on your mind?
Yes, I mean, I think the main kind of, almost existential worry was, is it too niche? Am I too into it? Will anyone really be as interested in this as I am? Am I going too far? That was a thing that bothered me every now and again. There were big technical issues. Technically, it was hard to think, how do I write a novel about people writing a book? That was a big technical dilemma. How do you dramatize people writing a book? Not just how do you dramatize it, but how do you somehow convey the information, the sense of creation, accumulation, without just boring everyone to tears? And actually, that was one thing that the letters, having those characters separate and writing letters, was very useful, because I could kind of push some of the denser factual homosexual theories.
Very cleverly, in fact, that's very cleverly done. So you can go back to poor Catherine and her,
exactly.
very human sort of feelings about she's going to be disgraced. I suppose the question really then is this a book written by a gay man in Boris Johnson's England, in a time when royalty, when the best-selling book of the century is going to be by this prince, when Boris Johnson's wandering around, utter buffoon, when a new prime minister comes in and costs the country 30 billion pounds, whatever your stupid old currency is called, like 30 billion pounds, her and her chancellor lose in a week. Like, is the book like all historical novels, is the book a contemporary novel about you working in the London Review of Books, which is a very progressive institution, which sees possibilities for change in England all the time in every issue and works towards that? And is the book really about what it was like for you to be alive as you were writing the book? And were you conscious of that? Is that rubbish? What do you think of that?
I actually think, well, there's two ways of answering that question. I think I speak for most writers when I say that every sentence is autobiographical to some extent, and I think there are parts of me in Addington, in the John character, and in the Henry, I parts in times of my life I've been very bold and kind of.
I would have thought you're more Henry than John.
I think I am.
What?
But then there's the other side of me, which is more anxious and second guessing myself and trepidatious, and so there's that That's fair. I actually think it's not a Boris Johnson novel, and this, I might have to unpack this a bit for an American audience, but I think it's less a Boris Johnson novel than a Jeremy Corbyn novel. So Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party almost the whole time I was writing the book. So you had a left wing and a kind of avowedly, properly left wing leader of Britain's other main party in opposition, who took the party in a very left-wing direction, staffed his shadow cabinet with proper lefties, had a very radical left-wing agenda. And I think for someone who worked at the London Review of Books, who is on the left, that project raised a lot of questions about you know, can this be done? Can this kind of utopian vision be realized? Can change be brought about by boldness? Is it better to be bold and honest and principled? Is that the way to carry the public? Is that the way to win an election? Or are these people crazy? Are they ruining the Labour Party because they are too principled, too idealistic, too utopian? And of course, that I do think did leak into the book, because I think, as I said earlier, the book actually is engaging with all those questions. It is about what's the best way to achieve progress. Is it by being principled and idealistic or not? And what are the kind of costs and the benefits of each of those?
Sorry, I really hadn't thought of that. You mean that there are moments when Corbyn was making speeches or setting out policies, or he had a fellow called Owen Jones, if he didn't say it, Owen Jones was a young journalist who would say it, you know, that it looked great if you were a certain sort of lefty. If you were a more experienced sort of lefty, you said, please don't say it, just imply it, suggest it. But as Alistair Campbell, who's from the Blair side, said, you know, you must win. In order to win an election, you have to win an election. There's no point in going in without that view. So, yeah, so that the drama in your book is to how far should you compromise? How much should you say? That was actually a big moment for Labour voters in England as you were writing the book.
Yes, it was a big, and I was writing a lot for the LRB about British politics at the time. And so I don't think it was ever kind of completely conscious, completely at the forefront of my mind, but I think it was there. I think it was the atmosphere, it was the moment, and so I do think it's a kind of left-wing dilemma novel in that sense.
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for this conversation. This is a really wonderful book, and I mean, I was reading it again, and it really stands up to a second reading. I really enjoyed it tremendously, and I really enjoyed talking to you just now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a real honor. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you both for this conversation. I really loved how it was so much of each insight and question you offered, Colm, was in the commendation of Tom's work. Clearly the respect of Tom's craft displayed in this novel was—
Hold on, what's the dog called?
C.K. Dexter Haven.
What?
C.K. Dexter Haven.
Ah, hi.
Like the Philadelphia story.
Yeah.
He also loved the book.
Oh, great. Great.
Thank you all for attending this evening. Please buy The New Life by Tom Crewe. For everyone who attended this evening, you get 10% off when you buy online at greenlightbookstore.com. Thank you both for this conversation. This was
Thank
really—
you. Take care. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Okay, bye. Bye.